I've been playing Minecraft for years. Not since the start like many, but at least since the early days, about the time it was released as 1.0, so easily about 10 years now. Obviously that means I've seen numerous updates and gameplay changes that alter the landscape of how the game is played, or how things are done and strategized to work well, whether it be because of mechanics, or new blocks, or through tricks that other people discover. And of course now with all these updates, there were some things that were considered pretty controversial, such as the combat update 1.9, or the recent things like the Nether update, which is a little less controversial, and then of course the newest update with the caves and cliffs. Now all of these altered how the game is played on a large scale. Now from that, it can be debated that it changed Minecraft too much from the basis of what it is. Especially now with the whole entire cave system overhauled, making things extremely difficult, really. Now there is something to be said of how quick it seems Minecraft players adapt to such changes that massively change how the game works. I've done it myself, but with something like the 1.18 update we recently got, where something that hasn't changed in over 10 years and is pretty simple, and everyone gets it. How do they go ahead and change such a normal part of the game? And that also got me thinking too about the subject of this video, and that is, at what point do they just make Minecraft 2? I'm not meaning to sound like some crotchety old man out here declaring that things aren't what they used to be, or things used to be better, but then again, things really are not what they used to be one bit. Now this is for the most part an opinionated take, because I'm sure there are many differences in opinion out there. This is more to state about how a theoretical fine line could realistically exist, and maybe one day will be drawn at some point moving forward. Now that I've sort of outlined this, I do want to bring up the obvious that it seems, and there's been talks about it, that Java is somewhat unsustainable as a format for the game, despite it all being built on top of it. Java, if you don't know, is pretty inefficient to program in. It contains a lot of unnecessary things that players don't need, but do use, such as the stats and the debugging info that's accessible in the F3 menu. And we can see it right now too, that when you start the Java launcher, it's urging you to switch to the new launcher, and there's also plans to distribute Bedrock Edition to everyone as well, almost like they are phasing out Java in a way. Plus it's also worth mentioning that they do want you to migrate your Mojang account into a Microsoft account for what they call security reasons, so the real reason, I don't know, but kinda seems connected. Now that's not here nor there, nor confirmed, it's just a suspicion. Bedrock in reality has somewhat of a superiority, and I'm saying that as a Java fanboy who's been playing it since before I even graduated high school. Crossplay works, and it's fun, the mechanics are the same with some minor tweaks, and it just has a little bit more of a polished feeling in the end. Now let's talk about the other obvious, and that is being the gameplay. Now my sole belief is that in reality there could be a line drawn where the game is being updated and changed too much. It begins to stray drastically far from what it once was. And that is the reason that I would vouch for a Minecraft 2, if you will. Some of the specifics would be the aforementioned 1.9 update in 2016, which changed everything about how combat worked, including cooldowns, critical hits, weapons like spectral arrows and shields, sweeping, dual wielding, amongst other things. I remember when the update came out and so many servers were so upset because of how that would break all their mini-games that were working just fine, that it led to some servers, and still to this day some still exist, without a compatibility above 1.8. Now again, this and every other thing I'm going to name drop is and has been going okay in the long run, solely because people do adapt, as everyone does. Some other big updates that changed so much would be the Nether update 1.16 in 2020 that changed how things work and making it far more difficult to complete the midpoint of gathering the crucial materials for the endgame while in the Nether. And now the most recent and more monumental thing, let's talk about 1.18, the Caves and Cliffs update. As they released it into two parts, I felt at first that the first update was doable. It didn't alter the game too much, but did have something new about it. But when part 2 came out and changed everything, adding an entire negative layer below the surface, humongous cave systems, and overwhelmingly large caverns to explore, it was just that. Overwhelming. I adapted like everyone else, but wow. It felt like such a departure from what Minecraft once was, and the simple caves we knew and loved and were used to. Now don't get me wrong, I am not entirely against big changes and overhauls, but I think completely disregarding the norm of a long time, like the old Nether, that was just all the Nether waste biome, not to mention the caves and world generation that worked since the beginning. When changes like this happens, it just seems as a bit wrong to do, almost like they're pushing it as if it never existed. I'm not implying they disrespected the former way the game worked, but it does make you think. Now, to finish off with this subject, I think with the huge things that disregard the foundation that they're built on, they do have a place somewhere. I'm not saying they shouldn't exist, but I do think they should not replace the former entirely. Now, you could say that they're all still there, and they are. The Nether waste biome still exists. The caverns like the old ones exist at higher Y levels, but I think it's really about what's around it all. Now, as far as the Minecraft 2 that I'm theorizing, I don't think that there is a concrete or specific date or place that it should have been at or would happen. If we were to, for the sake of the argument, split the games into what we call Classic Minecraft and Minecraft 2, some features would be nice to have in both that get added around the ones I already said, like swimming, some, not all, combat things, and the newest biomes and blocks, stuff like that. My point really is that when they stray away so far, they should be separate at some point instead of just throwing away what came before it. The examples I said before would be such, like a Minecraft 2, would have all of the combat mechanics, would have the new Nether, and would have the newest cave generation inside it. And now to conclude this, I would ask myself, do I see this happening? And though I have a strong opinion about it, I don't think it would, or ever will happen. It's become a general trend in video games to just keep consistently updating a game years after its release. For example, like CSGO, Dota 2, Payday 2, World of Warcraft, and many more. I genuinely think that they'll keep updating and replacing things, and the game will eventually become unrecognizable to what it used to be as time goes on. It's sad, sure, but it's how it works, and the game is infinite, and it's built on a simple concept, and they can just keep extending this simple concept into something that's extremely complex. Now, there is something to be said about video game preservation, which they are good about. You can still play all the old versions anytime you want. Some game companies aren't like that, Nintendo, so huge props to Microsoft/Mojang for that. Anyway, that's sort of what I've been thinking in my head since the release of 1.18, the Caves and Cliffs update that fully released here at the end of 2021. I at first was disgusted about the changes, but I did eventually come around, but still believe that a line could be drawn for a Minecraft sequel to take the torch from the original and run with it with new ideas and to stop the trend of replacing everything that they've built on for recent years. That's all I have for today. My name is Envoyance. Thank you to everyone for listening and watching, and more than ever, take care.